I was muted. I was muted. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. I had an Elaine moment to start things right off. That's fantastic. That's good. Oh, my goodness. Thank you guys so much for being here. We're going to have a lot of fun today. Today's stream is a bit different. We're just going to have a hangout stream. It's going to be my birthday stream. But more than that, it's not only my birthday. Yesterday, I believe, was the first anniversary of the first time I ever streamed by myself. So basically, it's been a year since we started. Now, hang on one second. I'm seeing. Let me see here. Is I'm just checking here. Do do do. Sound. Yep. Now, let me see here. We are currently awaiting my guest, and I am hoping that all of this is going to go super smoothly. We're going to be going through Do It for Dan. We're going to go through Do It for Dan. And I'm just waiting to see if Steph is going to be able to come and join us. So, Steph, I don't know if you are watching at all, but I have our Telegram open so we can communicate. But we're going to hopefully get this all going. I do want to say thank you guys all so much for being here right off the bat. It's just absolutely amazing. I'm going to double check here and take a look at what you guys have already sent in, which is just amazing. Thank you so much, Katie Artist, for the super sticker. And thank you so much, and Tyrana also for the super sticker, the birthday cake slice. It's so kind of you. Aria, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. And while we're at it, I'm going to go ahead. I usually wait to do this till the 15th, but no, we're just going to do it now. We're going to do it now. There we go. So there's another 5. Welcome to 5 New Space Angels. It is so good to have you all here. What a week. What a week. And I see that Jane, thank you so much, said we invaded your chat from Steph's. I could see. Thank you so much. It's good to see all of you. So good to see all of you. I'm excited to do this because this has kind of been one of these instances where on my show we have done many of these Reddit sagas. We've read through many of these sagas. We've had many a moment of shock, awe, trauma, all those types of things. And this has been the one. This has been the one that everyone loves, and we've had requests for it again. And I know we have so many new members of our community that probably haven't heard it, so we thought, no better time than to read through Do It for Dan again, and also to do it with potentially Steph the Alternerd if I can get this all figured out. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I just saw General Scott, thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships. That's so kind of you. Thank you for your constant support of this channel as you do. And Shauna, it's so good to see you. Oh my goodness. I was thinking about you the other day, and it's so good to see you. Thank you so much for that tip. That is so generous of you. I'm just reading here. Yeah. Happy birthday, Kim. Glad I can catch a live. I've missed the live community. All the best your next rotation on the sun. Thank you so much, Shauna. I so appreciate you. And it's so good to see you. Bon B just sent in $10. Thank you so much. Happy birthday and happy anniversary. You are a light in our lives. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. Lisa Boo has been a member for 12 months. Happy birthday, Kim. Much love. Much love to you. Thank you. Gunner Girl, thank you for 9 months. Oh, Lisa Boo got her 1th. I'm just cluing into that. Lisa Boo got a 1th. Yay! Lisa Boo! Congratulations on your 1th. And Gunner Girl, thank you so much for the 9 months saying happy birthday, beautiful lady. I so appreciate that. For the record, Your Honor, my bestie, happy birthday, love. Thank you very much. You didn't have to do that. Thank you so much for the message you sent me earlier as well. And Tammy has been a member for 9 months. Happy birthday, Cam! Thank you. As well as Beth S., member for 9 months. Happy birthday. Thank you. And Katie Artist, member for 10 months. Happy birthday. Thank you very, very much. You guys are hilarious and amazing. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going to go back to the other screen for a minute, and I hope that doesn't mess anything up. I don't know if you guys can see what Alf is holding, but producer sister and my mom were so kind as to decorate my set for me for the birthday. And they had these things that you could put your age. And I opted to not put my age. I put 1th. Because it's the 1th. It's the 1th of live streaming. I thought it was great. I thought it was so great. Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, just as we're waiting. Let me see here. I'm just double checking here, making sure everything's good. Okay. What did you guys think of part 1 and part 2 of the Best of It's Kim live? I tried to put those out earlier this week. I thought it was a lot of fun. And oh, Jane just said, "Oh my, the Funkos are so awesome." Yes, they're fun. I have many of them. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun to do the breakdown. I especially loved editing Jacksonville. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. And getting all those in there. I can't, and seriously, like I could have made that whole thing like another 2 or 3 minutes if I wanted to. It was ridiculous. Silky said, "Happy birthday, Kim," with a super chat. Thank you so much, as well as Sarai. Happy birthday. Love you lots. You're the best. Thank you so much. Billy Cat, big hole. You guys are amazing. So, just so you guys know what is going on in the background here, I am trying my new software to bring people in. It's a little bit scary. I am hoping that everything goes well. And we have done a few tests, so it should be pretty smooth. But we will see. We will see. We will see. Oh my goodness. All right. Yeah, Jane said just don't take them out of the packs. They lose money. Honestly, like I just get them because they're fun. A lot of them are gifts. I don't know if I ever would sell them. In all honesty, I don't think I would. I don't think I would. But I get what you mean. I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Let me see here. So I am going to do the YouTuber thing and ask, where are you guys watching from? Let me know. Because I would love to see where this stream is reaching today. Thank you so much, Wayward Sisters. Welcome to the Space Angels. It's so good to have you. Thank you so much for joining. As well, Carbonized Stardust giving 5 memberships. Thank you so, so much. Producer Sister.
Yes.
May I ask you, where are we at on the gifted memberships?
We are Team Odd.
Team
21.
Odd.
Or members.
Members?
Right? Are we doing members
Yeah.
or just gifted?
Members.
21, now 26.
Oh my gosh, Shauna, thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships. You guys are amazing. Oh man, this is awesome. This is awesome. You guys are wonderful. Thank you. I missed you guys too. Like, I don't know how to describe this. Once you start live streaming, it's almost like it's weird when you don't. Does that make sense? Like, it's weird when you do not because you really, really wanted to. You really, really wanted to. Let me see here. Okay. I'm so sorry, guys. Sarah B, thank you so much for the super chat saying happy birthday, Kim. I so, so appreciate that. Thank you very much. You guys are so sweet. I'm feeling the love. I'm feeling the love. I'm a little bit overwhelmed right now. I'm not going to lie. It is overwhelming. General Scott, thank you for the 5. Left a little gift in your PayPal. Didn't want YouTube to get any of that. Okay, thank you. You didn't have to do that. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I get so overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed. Yeah. Katie Artist, yes, I know the chat isn't below on the screen. The idea is hopefully that Stef should be showing up here shortly. That her camera will be underneath me. So that's kind of the idea for this one. Okay, General Scott, I just got it. Holy smokers. Thank you. And Diva D also just sent a PayPal gift as well. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. That goes a long way. Thank you, the both of you. You guys are gonna make me cry. And I can't do that. We can't do that. We just can't. We can't. Whew. Whew. All right. Okay. So, producer sister.
Yes.
We have had quite a week.
Yes.
It's been a little bit crazy. For those of you that don't know, on Monday, I became an aunt again for the second time. So it was amazing, absolutely amazing. Baby is beautiful and healthy and wonderful, and we are so happy that she is here. And I'm just so thrilled. I'm so, so thrilled. And I just was trying to be as available to my family as possible through that whole process. So there was no way I was going to be able to hammered down any time for live streaming. And I kid you not, the baby was born at the time that we normally start streaming.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Like, almost to the minute.
you
It
were
was
in the hospital when you would have
bizarre.
been streaming.
It was absolutely bizarre. Like, it honestly would have been me setting up a camera in the hospital and being like, "Hi, I gotta go." That would have been it. That's all that would have happened. And it was a lot. It was a lot. So I'm happy we decided to do what we did. I think it worked out really, really well. DVD member for 8 months. We broke Kim Law. Well, yeah, you did. Thank you very much, DVD. That's so kind of you. You guys are amazing. Bon B just also gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you as well. And Subi Sue has been a member for 14 months. She's got her 1th. I hope you have an amazing day. Happy birthday. Thank you so much. And Chris Barber, happy birthday, Kim. Hope you had a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Well, you guys are making it better. You guys are making it better. Y'all making it better. Yes, exactly, Kyle. The birth of a space angel. Pretty much. Yeah. It was crazy, and it was so much. But I'm so happy that everything went as well as it did, and we're all breathing now. It was, I think producer sister can attest, there was a lot of texting back and forth of just sheer, like, ah!
At one point, I just let you, like, word vomit all through the text conversation. I was like, I'm gonna let her go.
I'm sorry. It's, you know what I mean? It's just life. It's just life. Yeah. It's one of those things.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the part too, is it was so difficult for me to be able to, like, explain that it's like, we're running on baby time, and baby time don't care. Baby time don't care. They don't care if it's the middle of the night. Nope. They don't care if it's during work hours. They don't care. They're coming when they're coming, and that's it.
You can't hurry them.
Yep, and you will all deal. You will all deal. What if we do this? Steph, if you are around, please shoot me a message on Telegram just so I know what's going on. I am going to grab Lacey if she wants to come up. Lacey Bear, do you want to say hello to everybody?
Katie just said baby time is worse than Andy time.
Oh, 100%, yes. There's Lacey. So, and yes, Lacey was in the hospital with me. She came home.
Mm-hmm. Did she seriously?
Thank you, Bear. Thank you for blessing us with the birthday burp. It is the birthday burp. Burp, burp, burp. Oh, gosh. Did you guys enjoy that section of Part Tooth in the video? Where she burped so gloriously. It was great. It was great. Yeah. Okay. Janae Ash just said, "You're a Taurus too? Yes, queen!" Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Oh, goodness. The birthday burps are great. Alrighty. Let me see here. Sorry, I just got a weird pop-up. We're all good. Okay. Benjamin just said, "Happy birthday, Kim," the $2 super chat. Thank you so much. I so appreciate that. It's very kind of you. Yeah, Carbonized, she's like, "I have pleased the chat with my stomach air." That you have. That you have. Producer sister?
Yeah.
So were there any more memberships, or are we up to date on that? I'm like so scrambled right now.
You're behind on.
I'm behind on memberships?
Yeah.
Okay, who did I miss? Because the last one was Bonbon with 5.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that one.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
And then we had Sue and Chris and their member milestones.
And Maria
24T just sent in a £5 super chat or sticker with the puppy. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. And then Benjamin, and I think we are up to date there. Okay, that's good. So, I guess we can talk about the Reddit sagas a bit and explain that for anybody who is new here and how that all works. Producer sister?
Mm-hmm.
So, for the record, I can't start yet, Kim. I know. So basically, with my show, we normally start with a pop culture topic, usually something to do with whatever is popular in the media. I tend to love a lot of pop music, so that stuff tends to happen. Okay. Okay, sorry. I'm just speaking with Stef briefly. Okay. Alrighty. It looks like Stef is a bit pressed for time, so she is not going to be able to join us for a lot of the stream. So we're going to start with the what, and then we will pause when she comes in, and then we'll keep going. Is that cool with everybody? Are we good?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. I'm going to go over here then. All right. So, on the show, generally, we have What the What, which is a section that we do after we talk about pop culture topics. And it is normally put together by my incredible co pilot producer sister. Producer sister.
Yes.
Yes, which is the voice that you are hearing from beyond. And I normally don't see what it is that we're going to be going over for What the What, so I react authentically with you. You see it for the first time the same that I see it for the first time. And this was a Reddit saga that we read through that was absolutely insane. And it has been very loved by the community and has sparked the hashtags Do It For Dan as well as FU Dan. Those two have been very popular. So we thought, what a better I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate my birthday than revisiting this iconic moment of our channel, as well as just one of the most insane stories I've ever heard in my life. So I want to know, if you have not heard this story of Do It For Dan, can you please put a 1 in the chat? Let me know. Let me see. Put a 1 in the chat. Let me know. Let me know. And we go. Okay. So I'm going to try to do one thing. Okay. We're having some issues here.
What?
There we go. Okay. I got her. I got her. And show. Please work. Please work. It is not working. Fantastic. Stef, I'm so sorry. It doesn't look like it's working. I don't quite understand why it's not. Let me see. Got her. Got her. I got her.
Yay!
Yay! Okay. Okay. Oh, I can't hear her though. I got you. I got you. I can hear you. I can hear you. Okay, hang on. Hang on. We're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. Ah! Ah! I don't know why it did this. Because this isn't what I told it to do. Editing on the fly. Life of a streamer. It's always a good time. Okay. Did you have in your Coca-Cola? Like a model. Not sponsored, but wouldn't say no? Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Stef, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you rolling with the punches with me so much, so much. This is we're trying this new program and trying to make it all work. So it's been fun. It's been fun. How are you doing? That's okay. That's fine. I so appreciate that. Oh, good.
I can't hear Stef. You can't hear
We
Stef.
can't hear Stef?
No.
Oh no, Stef, hang on, hang on. Okay. Let me try this. Stef, can you speak again?
Hello, hello.
Okay, let me know if you can hear her now. That would be super duper cool. Well, Steph was just saying that she was enjoying the part one and part two of the Best of It's Kim live this week. We were having a lot of fun with that. Um, Katie Artist, yes, we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Cool. Hello,
Yay.
everyone. Hey up, guys.
Got it.
For those that didn't hear, again, this is just a flying visit. I'm going to have to go in
Yeah.
a minute. But of course, I had to dip in and say happy birthday to Kim and
Thank you.
well done on the success of your channel so far and the best of Kim videos. I've definitely enjoyed watching those and just the work put behind those videos. I know it would have taken hours, quite literally, to put it all together. I've edited videos and like an 8-minute video will take me like 6 hours to edit and put together. It's ridiculous, guys.
Yeah,
So
and that's part of
definitely show those videos particularly a lot of love because it's very well deserved with how it's been all put together.
Well, thank you very much.
But yeah, I'm literally gonna have to go. Sorry, it's
That's fine.
literally an in and out situation. I'm
worries.
so
No
sorry,
worries.
hon.
No
It
worries.
wasn't
Thank
supposed
you.
to be this way, but life gets in the way and all that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Enjoy the rest of your stream. Everyone
Okay.
that's watching, if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to ItsKim or like this stream, comment, give it all the engagement possible because more engagement means YouTube thinks this channel's more awesome, which it is. So
Yes.
let's get that done. And wherever you are in the world, enjoy the rest of your weekends. And yeah, I'll see you soon, honey, okay?
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry about any of the mix up, and I hope you're doing okay. We'll talk to you
It's all
later.
Gucci.
Okay.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty. Okay. So that's life. That's life. Unfortunately, we know Steph was planning on being here for longer, but it's life happens, and I just hope she's doing okay. But we are going to go through it all. We are going to go through all of it. We are going to go through the saga of Do It for Dan. Producer sister,
Yes.
would you be able to help me through parts of this? Because this is a novel and a half.
I can try.
All
yeah.
right, we're going to get through this. We are going to get through this. I do have to say thank you so much for more support that has come in. Benjamin sent in another a little super sticker, a little super chat saying, "Do it for Dan." Yes. And then Benjamin also gifted a membership. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Sarai has been a member for 5 months. Love Steph on the channel today. Yay. Exactly. Wish she could have stayed longer, but all love, and I hope she's okay. Aria, thank you so much for the farting puppy. That's one of Steph's favorites. That's great. Benjamin also sent in another super chat saying, "I love Steph and Kim." Well, thank you very much. Pearl Jan gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. And Silky also sent in the puppy as well. You guys have been incredibly generous today. Thank you so much. You guys are wonderful. Okay, so there were some wants in the chat when it came to people who have not heard Do It for Dan, and you are in for a treat. I did also just receive a PayPal. I'm not going to say your last name, but it did come from someone named Vicky. Thank you very much. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can connect you to a username or not, but thank you very much. I so appreciate that. Okay, let me go here. Let's do this. Let's have the what special of Do It for Dan. And I am hoping that the chat is going to work. We will find out. Hopefully it works. Okay. Yeah, Team Odd to producer sister. Thank you so much. Yay, the chat is working! We are professionals. Do. Okay. So, this was one of the sagas that was super popular in our community. This is the origin of the joke of Do It for Dan. Thank you, Kyle, for the 10th super sticker on a live stream. Thank you so much. And it is the hype one with the hippo. We love that. We love the hippo super stickers. Thank you all so much for all of the support. It means the world to me, especially after this week because the channel has been relatively inactive. It's very helpful. So thank you so much. All right. Producer sister.
Yes.
When you found this story,
Yes.
what went through your mind? Because I honestly want to know. I honestly want to know.
Honest to goodness, it was a ride.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. It starts a little slow because he has to lay a lot of groundwork.
Yes.
I almost gave up on it because I was like, oh, okay, so far, like nothing of that much has happened.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I didn't,
Mm-hmm.
because it just kind of kept going.
Yeah.
And when we started it, not all of this had been published.
Mm-hmm.
So lucked out a little bit there that the madness continued.
I'm so sorry. Carbonite Star has just messaged $10. It's like Danny Bucks. Danny Bucks. Oh, it's so funny. It's so funny. Sorry. Please continue.
Yeah, no, it was just, I'm always reading them trying to imagine like what response would this elicit from you?
Yeah.
Do I think she would have an audible response and different emotions and all those kind of things? I'm not someone who usually has audible responses
Mm-hmm.
with stuff. But there was definitely a couple things in here. I was like, are you kidding me?
I
Like,
think
what the crap?
There has to be something in here that is shocking to everyone, and that is a promise I will make you. If you have not heard this, you will be. So Samantha Lee, thank you so much for being a member for 5 months. Happy birthday! Good to see you again. Good to see you too.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it. We do want to let you guys know there is a bit of a trigger warning on this. We put it down here. There are some instances of DV.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nothing graphic.
Nothing graphic, but just so you are aware that is coming. But
we always try to be mindful of that.
Yeah, but I think we'll be right. And Samantha, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. You guys are amazing. We are my goodness, thank you. Welcome to new members. Thank you so much. I am going to do my best to stay on top of when the support comes in, because I don't know if we're going to find like a good breaking point through this.
There's a couple.
Yeah, so we'll figure it out. But here we go. So we've got the sources here. Those are also in the source doc if you want to see the originals. So, original post on January 23rd of 2023. So this happened last year. I am a single man in my early 30s. Now, when I refer to him, his username is Camper Nomad. So I may refer to him as Camper, just so you guys know.
Or OP.
Or OP. Camper or OP is this person. I'm a single man in my early 30s. I've got a brother who's 29. He's already got 4 kids now. He had his first at 22, and the second followed a year later, the third 2 years after that, and the fourth is most recently born a couple of months ago. His wife, my sister-in-law, and I do not get along, as she always likes to try to get a rise out of me by acting superior. Then turns into an extreme self-victimizing drama queen if I retaliated against her in any way. She can cry in an instant and can put on an extremely convincing show to get sympathy from just about anyone. My parents and my brother absolutely adore her, even though they know exactly how she really is and just don't care. She's very good looking. I'll give her that. But she's so awful, I could never be attracted to her. She also refuses to get any sort of job, even though she has a college degree. And my mother willingly helps with the kids all day. So their finances are entirely dependent on my brother. This also means they can't afford to live anywhere but my parents' house. And privacy is a bit of an issue with all of them under one roof, in a 3-bedroom house that was built in the 60s. Fair enough. Growing up, my younger brother was also the obvious favorite. He is not exaggerating, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Dan is the favorite. Oh dear. Oh dear. Yeah, Katie Artist, drama queen, you don't say. Yeah, we're not going to see that at all. Spoilers. We're 3 years apart in age, but he developed a superiority complex because I was badly punished if I retaliated against his antics anyway back then. It was obvious that my parents cared for him a lot more because he got the lion's share of everything unless people called them out on it, which did happen a fair bit by other members of the family, which is why my parents packed us all up and moved us to 150 miles away from them, so they would generally only see us on holidays since it was a 3-hour drive. My brother also got physically not nice towards me on a number of occasions, flirted relentlessly with my first girlfriend to the point that she broke up with me, and laughed at any misfortune I had. For real, like, honestly, the more that I think about this story, the more I'm like, I feel like Camper, like OP, is like Cinderella.
Yeah.
This is the mentality I get. It's really, really sad.
Yeah.
It's really, really sad. Sorry. And my parents just told me to suck it up whenever I was upset about it. I only got equal treatment when my parents wanted to keep up appearances. I admit it was rather funny to see the looks on their faces whenever they had to treat me equal to my brother on birthdays and Christmas because others were present. We had relatives that were very nosy and loved gossiping drama. So my parents did their best to hide what was really going on and threatened to take away my stuff if I didn't keep my mouth shut. If anything, it made my parents celebrate more when I turned 18 and moved out because they no longer had to provide for me. And I wasn't even done high school yet when I moved out. But couch surfing was far better than living with them. I was low contact ever since leaving home. They didn't even show up for my high school graduation, but I really didn't care. From that point on, I would usually only see my parents and brother on holidays like the rest of the family. Yeah, I'm seeing some of you guys saying you can relate to this, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And also the discussion, I don't think Dan has ever been in our chat.
No.
I don't think so. As Carbonite said, I don't think he would be brave enough to enter this chat. Oh, Katie, thank you so much for the 10 gifted memberships. You guys are wonderful. My goodness. Producer sister.
Yeah.
Where are we at?
We are team even.
We are team even.
52.
Team even. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. Producer sister.
Yeah.
Do you want to read this one?
Yeah.
It should load in just a second.
I've got my...
Yeah, you've got it. Yeah.
Yep.
So we're at the start of 2020.
Yep. Okay. So the start of 2020 pandemic was not kind to me. I lost my job and couldn't renew my lease on my condo because my roommate also lost his job and neither of us could afford the place on unemployment money. It was a rented 2-bedroom condo that I really loved. As the lease was ending, my roommate left early to move back in with relatives, and I had to sell nearly all my stuff because I was soon going to be homeless if I didn't downsize to an extreme. I really shouldn't have rented a place that was so expensive, but I liked living the high life until that life wasn't kind to me. And I realized I should have been living somewhere far cheaper so I could have saved more money to fall back on. But I had a plan. I owned a truck simply for the fact that I've always loved trucks. So I found a $1,000 camper in good shape, put it on the back of my truck just so I could live out of it for a while. It was supposed to be temporary, but I ended up living out of it for far longer than I ever thought. I originally was hoping to be able to live out of the camper at my parents' house, where my brother and his family still reside as well. But when I asked my parents to let me stay for a while, they told me they had a full house and they didn't want me there.
That's so sad.
It is.
Like that, to me, like this was when I was so, this guy is fighting. You know, he's trying to create a life for himself, and it's so sad that they just completely ditched him. They completely abandoned him, which is it's just disgusting. It's awful. Absolutely awful. I do have to say thank you so much to General Scott and Shauna that just gifted memberships, one each. So I think we were team odd, and then we're back to team even.
Yes.
So we're still team even.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, do you want me to take over?
No, I can keep going.
Okay, if you want. Go for it.
Plus, we hadn't exactly gotten along in the past decade. They said they'd only agree to let me park my camper there if I paid them basically what it would cost to rent an apartment in my area. That was way too much just to park my camper. I was jobless and trying to save as much unemployment money as I could until I could find a new job. I may as well be living in an apartment with that rent price they were asking. My parents called my camper an eyesore and told me to take a hike since we couldn't come to an agreement. And sister-in-law thought it was absolutely hilarious. I had to live in my camper. My brother joined her in pointing at and mocking me while calling me a homeless bum.
Garbage people.
Garbage people.
Garbage people. Thank you so much to General Scott that just gifted a membership, bringing us back to Team Odd. Thank you very much. Jackie Swan also just gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Jackie. I so appreciate that. Producer sister.
Yes.
Where are we?
We are at 60.
60?
60. 60.
Thank you so much, you guys. So we're team even then.
We are team even.
We're team even.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you very, very much. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah. I parked my camper.
Sorry. I hit the thingy. Okay. Now we're good. We're good.
I parked my truck/camper in a store parking lot to sleep on the first night. I had nowhere else to go. I felt scared out of my mind that someone might try to break in. Suffice to say, I didn't sleep well that night. There was nowhere else I could go, as any other relatives that owned houses were fairly far away, and all my friends were apartment people. As I was pretty attached I was pretty attached to my area as well. So I didn't just want to leave. Also had all my mail forwarded to a friend's apartment. It was the only way I could still get my mail anymore.
I can take over.
Okay.
Finding a stable place to park was pretty difficult. I was looking around to try to find a job similar to my old one. It took months of living the nomadic camper life. In that time, I had to deal with a lot. Everything from beggars to people with substances to people demanding that I leave because my camper was an eyesore. At one point, someone who told me to move claimed to be with the homeowners association. I wasn't even parked on a street with houses. And when I questioned what homeowners association, they got incredibly belligerent and threatened me. I moved my camper anyway just to avoid the trouble. In order to have a steady supply of electricity, I learned how to use a long extension cord to plug in anywhere I could recharge my camper batteries. And this meant sneaking around and plugging it into the outside outlet of a random building while parked on the street. I know that's a crummy thing to do, but I had to keep my batteries charged so my refrigerator would stay cold. I had a small solar power bank, not polar bank. What's a polar bank? Sorry. For recharging my phone, and I didn't have anything like a generator. And generators are noisy and require fuel anyway, so I did what I had to do. And that's the thing too. I feel like there's so much of this that it's like he did what he had to do.
Whoa!
Shauna! Shauna! Shauna, oh my gosh. First, she gifted another membership. Then she swoops in and goes, here's another 50. I am in shock.
Wow, thank you.
Shauna, thank you so much.
Holy crap.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate you. That is so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. My goodness. I don't even know how to respond to that. I don't know how to respond to that. Can we get some love in the chat just for everybody who's given today? You guys are all amazing. Thank you so much. I also have to say thank you for the super chat here to Whitnars. You should get a tip link, Kim. Happy birthday. I mean, I have a link. Thank you very much. I have a link tree that is in the description of this video, and I'm sure the mods can share it as well. And that does connect to all of my official links. So my Instagram is there, as well as my PayPal if that's a way that you want to contribute. But again, not necessary. I'm just glad you guys are here. Every view, every like, every sub, it means the world to me. I so appreciate it. Yeah, it's very overwhelming. Thank you so much. I'm like scrolling, trying to. And Shauna has been a member for 17 months. Happy birthday. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. We gotta keep going. Although producer sister, dare I ask what we're at right now?
111.
Holy crapola. My gosh. Thank you very much. You guys are incredible. Wow. Wow. Okay. Whew. Whew. I have to focus. Is this, are you guys just trying to make me cry at this point?
I think they're trying to break the shape tape.
They're trying to break the shape tape?
Yep.
There's a lot of it on today, so. I'm still so tired from everything. Like, bags are under the eyes, guys. The shape tape is working on overtime today with the setting powder. It is happening. It is a deal. It is a whole thing. Okay. Oh, Rio, oh baby, thank you so much. That sent in a $50 super chat. Thank you for all your hard work, Kim. Thank you for your support. That is incredible. I so appreciate you. Okay, I think we're gonna have to like put a pause that we're gonna have to like hold and then read and then come back for support.
Because we were doing that, but the 50 kind of
I know the
that.
50 kind of throws everything off. You guys are so amazing. Thank you so much. I'm feeling the love and it's very emotional. Thank you. Okay. Whew. Okay. After months of living like that, I finally managed to get a new job. I had to move to the neighboring city to find a job that didn't involve retail. I worked retail while I was in college and promised myself never again. Though I was nearly ready to break that promise, I was still getting unemployment money, but I had no stable place to live while receiving it, and I didn't want to be jobless when it ran out. Plus, I was bored out of my mind. I had little else to do but read, watch movies on a small portable DVD player, and use my phone or laptop to keep note of where I could park and what local bathrooms I could use. I kind of envy the Japanese that have public bathhouses. We could really use stuff like that here. I agree. I agree. I have heard that Japanese bathrooms are magical. Like all of it is insane. Oh my goodness, you guys are amazing. Thank you. This chat, this group, I'm still in shock with the super chats as well. Like all of you guys are amazing. Thank you. I do want to say I never know how to say thank you appropriately. And I feel so bad when it's like I have to just keep going with the show and I don't know how to say thank you and how to convey my gratitude effectively in that manner. But I want you guys to know that every view, every like, every sub, every tip, all of it, it means so much to me. And I so appreciate all of you and the support that you show in whatever way that you do. It means so much. And I am so floored that we're a year into this madness of live streaming and this community is just so beautiful and so kind and so generous and so wonderful, and I could not ask for anything more than you guys, so thank you so much.
I think sometimes it's just the words thank you don't
They
feel like
don't.
they're enough.
They don't. Like,
or it just feels like that's what you're supposed to say, so it doesn't actually hold
yeah.
meaning.
And like I think I really just want people to know that it does really mean a lot
Yes,
to
it
me.
does.
Like it does. Like I will absolutely, when this stream ends, like I will cry. I
Yep.
will cry for like probably a good half hour and bawl my eyes out.
Probably.
But I have to be professional. Right? Like I have to stay in my streamer mind to keep going, and I can't let down that guard. So please just know that I really do appreciate it. Okay, let's keep going. When I finally landed a new job, I practically lived on the back lot of the building by the warehouse, in an old employee parking spaces literally no one else seemed to bother using because they were so far in the back and the area was borderline forgotten. My boss / company owner actually liked this arrangement because I was willingly available to take any shift I could get, so as long as I had enough sleep. He even let me take the camper off my truck and set it in one of the spaces so I could drive around without it. Not exactly sure if that was legal, but no one bothered us about it. So the entire time I lived back there, I didn't have to deal with many trespassers. Can we just give like a round of applause to that freaking boss that showed
Yeah.
more love and compassion to this man than his own family did? I am this that always floors me about this. It's so upsetting. There were a few, but security guards escorted them out. I was pretty much on call most of the time when they needed me, but I was working virtually every day of the week. My boss let me plug in my camper to the building for power and water, and I paid a small amount of rent by working for free on Sundays when no one else was in the office but the janitor and the security guard. Beyond that, I usually had to shower at a friend's apartment or my local gym, as the camper didn't have a shower in it and only a portable toilet. And I didn't want to fill it because emptying it was a nasty chore, so I used the other bathrooms as much as I could. I had a key to the warehouse and I could go in and use the bathroom there at any hour. I was even on a first name basis with the night security guard. He's since become one of my closest friends. The camper was easy to heat in the winter with a small electric heater. Summers were not fun though. The camper didn't have AC, so I had to get a used portable air conditioner to make it bearable. This man. This man. I made a lot of overtime pay and hands-on learned some new skills from other employees. Eventually, midway into the year, I landed a better position in the company as a supervisor and started making a better salary than my old job. And that's when I decided I wanted a house. The scare I had gotten from losing my condo made me realize I needed something much more stable for the long term, and I looked around for something close to my work. Just 2 miles away, I found a 3-bedroom, manufactured home on a small property, but I managed to get it for $10K less than the asking price somehow. I used nearly my entire savings for the down payment and got it approved for a home loan. I finally didn't have to live in a camper anymore. There was enough space for me to back my truck in behind the house and to take the camper off and set it in the backyard. So I put it there as its own little building in case I want to use it again. This man,
The struggle is real.
the struggle is real, and I am so incredibly proud of him without even knowing him. It's insane. And that's why I think we all root for him, right?
Yeah.
Because what he had to deal with and how he managed to get himself out of it, just major respect.
And I think a lot of us can relate to that. Maybe not this exact situation, but
Yeah.
we've all been in the situation where life just knocks you flat on your butt and you have to try to pull yourself up. And what happened to him, he learned some lessons through it about renting versus owning and security and all that kind of stuff, but he wasn't overly reckless or did anything that was the direct cause of this. This was, life happens, and you got to roll with it, and it's, you choose how you react and what you do moving forward.
Exactly. Producer sister,
yeah,
could I bother you to grab me a Coca-Cola?
Yeah,
thank you.
You're welcome.
When I was fully settled in the house, I was dumb enough to brag about it on my book of faces.
I love how he writes.
I do. I love how he writes too. It's so good. But honestly, though, I don't feel like that's bragging.
No, it's exciting.
Yeah, producer sister just said it's exciting. She's away from the microphone, but it's like when you get your first house, that's exciting. Be excited. It's fair. It's a big deal. My family saw the post, and that's where ish really starts. After a few weeks, my parents and my brother... No, but I could use a straw, if possible. Okay. No, never mind. I forgot that. No, I will use this one. Nope. Okay, sorry about that. Producer sister had a little accident. So, producer sister's foot is hurting, so I don't want her exerting herself too much. That's a no from me. Also, I don't know if I said thank you to Jackie Swan, who's been a member for 6 months.
Yay!
Thank you very much. You're halfway to your 1th. Woohoo! You're 0.5. What are we going to do when we get to 5s? And 4ths? Do we do then? Forced?
Yeah, or
fist?
I don't even know how to say it.
Ford? Infinites?
I don't know how to say it.
Infinites! Alright. Okay. After a few weeks, my parents and my brother, along with his family, came to visit completely unannounced to have a tour of my home. I didn't even give them my address. So how they found out where I live, I still don't know. None of my friends have fessed up, and no prior family members visited me before that. So I wonder if they stalked me at work and followed me home or something. It really wouldn't surprise me. Once I opened the door, they practically shoved their way in like rambunctious tourists, and they just started making themselves at home. They all kept poking around, and sister-in-law had this creepy smirk that she was repeatedly flashing me. And it was only later I figured out why. And it made me madder than a bull on steroids that just got stung by a hornet. My parents were constantly talking about how I've got so much extra space now, and it's just too much for someone like me who has no wife or kids. Sure, not now, but maybe someday. Well, it's really hard to do all of that when you're, fighting homelessness. I can't with the... And my brother kept remarking about how there was more space than our parents' house, and the house was closer to his job too. Red flags all around. I know. Eventually, my brother asked to speak privately. Everyone else suddenly left the room and piled onto the front porch. And that's what finally made me realize they'd planned something. My brother, let's call him Dan.
Oh, Dan.
Oh, Dan! Said the house was too much for me alone, and I should let him move in with his family because his wife is pregnant with kid number 4, and my house is so much closer to his job. He pointed out that I already have the camper, so I could just live outside while they live in the main house. You guys hearing this for the first time? How are we doing? He should just give up the house.
He doesn't need it.
He doesn't need it.
He didn't work for it.
Nothing. He's just gonna take it. And I'd like to point out that Dan never once spoke of offering rent. Mind you, he's got a good job. He also started talking about how there would be changes and even curfews, and that I couldn't walk in at any time without prior notice in his own house.
You know, because that's a completely reasonable request when
I love it.
they're
You
the
guys
ones.
are just like, no, what? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Here we go. Now we're all, here we go. You're understanding the origins of the hashtag FU Dan now. Yep. If it weren't my brother, I think the person I was talking to had lost their mind. But Dan lost his marbles long ago thanks to our parents treating him like he was the center of the world. I tried to speak, and he kept talking over me as if I had no say in the matter. There was no way in the bad place I'd rent my house or parts of my house to him. Other people maybe, just so I can pay the mortgage off more easily, but certainly not him or his nasty wife. I've heard of this exact situation in videos online many times, but never once did I think I would actually live it because it is so ludicrous. But my parents, brother, and sister-in-law do all fit the bill for a bunch of narcissistic, entitled crazies. So I picked up the phone and set it to start recording.
Good idea.
Get your receipts. Always. Always. They just held on to it. Dan didn't even seem to care or notice that I'd done this. He just sat there with his arms waving around while talking about the reasons he needed my house. Then he went from saying that to acting like it was a done deal and trying to reach out his hand to shake mine. That's when I finally showed my backbone. And I said, AG double hockey stick, no! And I said it loud enough that Dan stumbled backwards for a second. I rarely ever raised my voice to him on that level because I was punished by our parents whenever I did, but this was my house and not theirs. My spine can be as shiny as it wants here. I stood up and then I told him that my house was not up for grabs and acting like I'd let him move in just because they want it won't make it happen. I bought the house for me, and it's not my fault he keeps having more kids and has to keep living with our parents because he can't afford to move out. Dan got as physically close as he could to me without actually touching me and said I didn't deserve the house. I can't think of someone who deserves a house more.
He worked his butt off for that thing.
Oh my gosh. Like, oh... This is absolutely insane. It still boils my blood now. I'm just like, this is insane. Carmen, I started up was like, OP was like, you shall not pass. Pretty much. All right. He said he didn't deserve the house and I didn't deserve the house and he needed a better place for his family to live. I laughed back in his face and I said that was total BS because I worked hard to buy my house. Of course I deserved it. Dan started yelling that I have no wife and kids and I don't need all the space, so I might as well give in to him. I said I'm not giving him anything and he never even offered to pay me rent. If I let him move in, I'd be covering the entire mortgage on my own house without even being able to live in my own house. Dan told me that he shouldn't have to pay rent because his family comes first. And our parents said I was going to do this and that I will. And I yelled as if their word was law or something and told Dan they didn't have the right or power to give my house to him. And then right on cue, my parents and sister-in-law barged back in through the front door and surrounded me to try to force me to agree. Yup. Sarai, he worked for it, you a-hole! Yep, still makes me just as mad as the first time. There was a lot of fighting, but to sum it up from this point on, I heard the line, just do it for Dion! There it is, everyone! There's the birth! Way more times than I can remember. In the fight, I told them all, In the fight, I told them all they don't have a say in my life or my house, and to get out before I called the cops. Sister-in-law screamed the loudest at me about how she was pregnant again and I can't do this to her. I said I did nothing to her. She just assumed she could come and take from me and I would just allow it. I had no obligation to her or her family. Then I called her a stuck-up who never had any respect for me. So I don't care what she thinks or how many kids she has. I have no sympathy for her. Can I just say, too, her being pregnant, she should be yelling at Dan.
Like,
yell at Dan. It's his fault. You could have done something about it. There are a few things you could have put in, like things to block certain things from happening, or it's not.
He had nothing to do with it.
He had nothing to do with this. And he wants nothing to do with this. You know what I mean?
I would very much like to be excluded from this narrative.
Exactly. No, he was not in that bedroom, okay? Nope. That was not, I cannot. Oh. Well, that made her angry enough to attack me. She got in one good hit on my face and tried to do more, but my brother held her back, kicking and screaming. She kept demanding he let her go so she could scratch my eyes out. The phone I was holding recorded pretty much everything. So I held it up and said I was going to call the police if they didn't leave right away. And my parents told Dan they were leaving. Then my mother said I had a week to come to my senses.
Do I know?
Do it for Dan. Just do it for Dan. I told her I won't be, and to not come back. Then I told sister-in-law that my phone recorded everything, and if she tries anything, I'll press charges for A. She screamed at me and then stormed out loudly crying with her face in her hands. My mother was the last one out the door and said, I better do this for Dan. And sister-in-law, I responded by telling her, I won't be. Carbonized Stardust, I don't know if I can say that, but I'm going to let it go on screen. There you go. I can't. Oh, man. Producer Sister, do you want to read this one?
So this was the first update that was posted January 25th, 2023. Okay. After I kicked my parents, brother, and sister-in-law out for trying to force me to hand over my new house to my brother, I immediately went to social media and told the story to the whole family. It spread pretty fast, but you won't find it now because it's all got deleted some time ago, and I put my profile on private. Smart man. I posted about it because I knew the first thing my family would do when they got home is to try and twist the events to make me the villain. And I was exactly right. But I had about an hour to get started before them. I had video evidence to back up my story about what they'd done. No, I don't plan on showing the video here, so don't ask. Being preemptive worked because I got a fair number of family members on my side right away. My parents, brother, and sister-in-law must have been all set to write their own post, but it was too late. So they didn't even bother trying to lie much. My parents, Dan, and sister-in-law had a few flying monkeys supporting them, but not much else. Plenty of others knew how entitled they already were, so what happened was something they all quickly understood and accepted. There was one person in particular that called me. I don't know who they were, but they ranted at me that I was a horrible brother and I needed to make way for a real family man. I just ended the call and blocked the number. This didn't repeat.
I honestly, that to me is always just a shocking part of this.
Yeah. The other people were on their side.
Like, family man.
Part of what OP's doing is trying to get his life in order, so if he wants to be a family man, if that opportunity presents himself, he's ready.
Yeah. He's trying to get his life together.
Yeah. Crazy.
I can't.
The week went by and my parents showed up with Dan on the front porch just like they said they would in their prior ultimatum. They rang my doorbell like crazy and also pounded on the door until I finally answered. I opened it just a crack, and they tried to shove their way in again. But I'd installed a couple latch chains that prevented it. I even braced my body against the door for good measure. My father and brother demanded I let them in, but I said I was recording everything on camera and would call the police if they tried to force their way in again. My mother calmed them down and then, in her most sickly sweet tone, asked me if I was ready to let my brother move in. I told her and the rest of the family to F off and never come back.
Appropriate response.
Yes.
Just play the CeeLo Green song. Full blast. Just
if you want to troll them, do the Muppet version.
Yeah, the Muppet version,
With
or
the
I
chickens.
have no more F's to give.
Yep, that'll work too.
I think the other one that probably would have been fantastic that I think I would have done I would have played Be Better Have My Money.
Yeah. Yep.
Y'all should know me well enough.
My mother put on the crocodile tears and asked me why I can't do this for Dan because he's my beloved brother. I laughed and then bluntly said I do not love him as a brother because he treated me like crap for years and they only encouraged him to do so. They are terrible parents and he is a terrible brother. They told me to leave or I'd be calling the police ASAP. They all left surprisingly easily, apart from my mother's loud crying and the others giving me dirty looks. One could say making them leave was suspiciously easy. I thought the whole mess was over, but I guess I should have taken them more seriously because they had other stupid plans.
Do you want me to keep going?
It's up to you.
I came home later that week on Friday evening to find a moving truck and my brother's minivan parked in the driveway. It was Dan and his family there, moving stuff in. He just waved at me with a poop-eating grin when I saw him. I was furious and told him and the rest of the family to stop. But sister-in-law smugly said that, like it or not, they were moving in. It amazes me how many people do not understand the way that house ownership works. That if your name is not on the house ownership or on the mortgage, guess what, hun?
You don't have the right to live there.
You don't. You don't. If there's no renter agreement that has been signed that is legit, if there you have nothing. You have nothing.
Mm-mm.
Nothing.
You have no legal right to
None.
live there.
And then in the most fake way, while tilting her head and puckering her lips, she said, "It was okay because my mommy allowed it." And I should always listen to what my mommy tells me. I was seething with rage just hearing those words and looking at her smug beef face. So I locked myself in my truck to call the cops right away. And when they realized what I was doing, sister-in-law started pounding on the window, yelling at me to stop. And that I can't do this to her because she and Dan need the house. And she cried, "Why can't you just do this for Dan?" I responded with, "F Dan! It's my own house!" I can't. Not his. Then she threatened to key the side of my truck unless I stopped calling the police, all of which the 911 operator heard thanks to the window being slightly open. I told sister-in-law if she damaged my truck, I would sue her, and she was smart enough to retreat. How are we doing, everybody that has, put a 1 in the chat again if this is the first time you're hearing this. I'm curious how you guys are doing. When the police arrived, Dan and sister-in-law, along with their kids, had locked themselves in my house. I told the cops what had happened as well as showing them my new driver's license that had my current address on it. Then we went to the front door. I saw that they'd changed the lock, and the old lock was laying on the porch with the center of it drilled out, and the drill they used was laying right next to it with a complete Harbor Freight drill bit set. Could they have been any more stupid leaving the evidence out like that? I pointed out to the broken lock and drill, and I gave the police a rundown of all the events that had happened prior. I love you guys are all like... Oh, the ones, you guys are amazing. I hope you all are enjoying this. Now, I hope now you understand why people did the do it for Dan and the F you Dan.
And why they still say it.
Why we still say it, because we're all bonded for life on this one now. Daisy Cobra Star X, member for 4 months. Thank you so much. Said happy birthday, Kim. Have a great weekend. Tutter loves you. I love Tutter. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. Have I missed anything else, producer sister? Do you know?
Sorry?
Have I missed any other support?
I don't think so, but I'll double check.
Okay. When the police arrived... Oh, no, I already read that. Okay, yeah. So he gave the cops a rundown. We'll keep going. Well, I guess Dan called our parents over at some point after I arrived home because they showed up while I was talking to the cops. My parents immediately lied and started saying that I'd agreed to rent my house to my brother and his family, and said that I said it was an easily provable lie one way or the other. So Dan and sister-in-law came out of the house with some papers in hand. They both looked super smug, like they'd somehow outsmarted me. They'd actually drawn up and printed out a fake rental agreement. But my signature was not on it. There was one, but it looked nothing like my handwriting. I don't think any of them have actually seen my signature. So it was incredibly stupid on their part. I told my parents that it was stupidly blatant fraud. And if the cops investigated, they'd easily figure it out. And I don't think going to jail or court would do them any good. It also could even make Dan lose his job, which was his only means of providing for his family. I also said I would get a lawyer and sue for damages if anything of mine was lost, stolen, or broken. And I'd call CPS too for good measure. Dan went white and looked really scared when I said all that, but my mother got between us and doubled down about how I should just do it for Dan! Do it for Dan! A Carbonite artist said I bet they use Chat GPT. I mean, they probably found like some template, like they just Googled it and took it and did that. Oh gosh, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I just saw Benjamin sent in a $5 super chat of the pair. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. I do appreciate it. Yeah, do it for Dion. Do it for Dion. Katie. Okay. Just do it for Dion and live in the camper so they can finally have a family home to themselves. I yelled at her that if she thought this was such a good idea, she could do it for Dan and let Dan have her house to himself instead.
I approve of this suggestion.
I do too. Oh gosh. The cops separated my mother from me and said I wanted all and I said I wanted all of them out right now or I would press charges. I started in a shout about how they had drilled my front door lock to break in. The lease papers were obviously fakes. They badly forged my signature, and I have recorded video of sister-in-law attacking me. Those are felonies, and I could F over their lives if I wanted. And if they didn't leave, that's exactly what I'd do. The only reason I hadn't already was for the sake of Dan's kids. So they had one chance to get the F out. The moment my parents heard that, I think it finally clicked. They could not force me to do it for Dan. My mother surrendered and said she'd put an end to this. Then she went over to sister-in-law and spoke with her quietly for a minute while my father spoke to Dan. Sister-in-law instantly started loudly crying and ripped up the fake rental papers into tiny bits, tossing them like confetti, only to have the officer to tell them to pick up the bits of paper or he'd cite them for littering. Both of the cops at this point had the I don't get paid enough for this look on their faces.
I don't blame them.
Oh my... It's too good. It's too good. Benjamin just said, why is, I'm assuming you're saying Dan's situation looking like Jacksonville? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this did take place in Jacksonville. Wouldn't shock me. Dan had to start telling the kids to load their stuff back into the moving truck. The kids were all crying, and the eldest was sobbing that he won't get his own room now. Sister-in-law and Dan gathered their kids to try to make one last pathetic attempt to guilt me with the sad family routine. You know, where they all gather together in a sort of group hug while facing one direction. I swear, I think they practiced it beforehand. All the kids had the same pleading look with quivering mouths. Sister-in-law kept rubbing her pregnant belly and tilting her head to look like a sad puppy. And my brother just made the saddest face he possibly could and said, "Please don't do this. We need to be able to live here." But I didn't falter and I told them to keep packing.
Good man.
I love it so much. All the kids and sister-in-law turned up crying to 11. And Dan yelled at me, "Are you satisfied with yourself? You've denied us a home because you're too selfish to share and help out family." Silky, I don't like Dan. Does anyone like Dan?
Doubtful. If you do, I'd really like to know why.
F Dan. F Dan. I ended up laughing like a maniac and retorting that what he was trying to do was taking, not sharing, and no amount of crying would make me let his family move in because he's no brother of mine anymore. He's just an entitled prick who thinks that he can take whatever he wants from me, like when we were kids. Dan started F-bombing me until the cops told him to cool it or he'd be placed in cuffs regardless of whether I wanted to press charges. Isn't that bad when the cops are like, nah, you don't need to press charges anymore. We've just had enough. We'll do it.
We're now making this decision.
I feel like a part of me would have gone like, if you want to, go for it.
Yeah.
Please do. I'll be a witness.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. He sucked in his lips and looked a mix of afraid and supremely pissed off. Stay mad, bro. Stay mad. I asked the cops if they could stick around until my parents, brother, and sister-in-law had all left, and they said they had no intention of going anywhere until this had been resolved. In fact, the next few minutes, the 2 cops became 4 as more drove in for whatever reason. Oh, I bet you anything when he started F-bombing everybody, when Dan started freaking out, they went, we're going to need backup.
Either that or they wanted to come for the show.
Oh, yeah, they're just like, you are not going to believe this. You are not going to believe this. They just kind of like point to the lock on the porch on the floor.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. It'd be so funny. And yeah, that gave my parents some extra incentive to get moving. I made Dan give me the keys to the new lock he put on my door, though I got another lock the next day anyway because I didn't know if they had made copies of the keys or not. Smart.
Yep.
And he was really reluctant to hand them over. Then instead of handing them to me, he actually threw them down in the street and into a storm drain while saying to go get them myself. But one of the cops scolded him, and for that, and one of the cops scolded him for that and made him go get them. He had to pull the grate off just to get at them and got pretty dirty in the process. And when he got the keys back, he just grumbled and slammed them down into my hand. And then I told them all to leave and never come back. My mother said I would be disowned for this.
Bring it on.
As if this was some kind of a threat to me. And I voiced that to them in an overly sarcastic, I said something along the lines of, oh no, that means I won't get to come to any holidays with you guys where I always get treated like-ish by you all anyway, because Dan has always been your obvious favorite. You treated all me so badly when I was growing up that if Dan ever needed an organ donor, I wouldn't give him anything. So do like you always told me to do when I was mistreated by all of you, and suck it up. I wouldn't even give him an organ.
Nope.
Exactly, carbonized. No, Mom, we disown you. Oh my gosh.
If you're going to threaten me, do it properly.
Yep, exactly. Producer sister, would you mind doing this one?
Yeah. That's right. My parents were floored after I said all of that, and the quartet of cops were looking pretty judgmental at them as well. I tell you, if you want to put nasty parents like mine on the spot, confront them in front of cops, because they'll likely not try anything really stupid then. My mother just started crying and walking away. My father stood there looking like he wanted to hit me, and Dan just held his kids in defeat. Oh, and sister-in-law was off having a tantrum in my front lawn. Soon enough, they all formed a line handing out boxes and got their stuff out of my house. Nothing had been unpacked yet, so it was all taken out pretty quickly. But while doing it, my mother kept saying it wasn't too late. I could still do it for Dan several times. Each time trying to bargain more and make more to try and make me change my mind. She said that Dan could pay me rent if I let them stay. And when that didn't work, she said I could move back in with them to let Dan rent my house so I wouldn't have to share the building. I told her to shut up and keep packing boxes because I don't want Dan or his family around. I don't want his money, and I certainly don't want to live with him or my parents ever again after the way they treated me when I was a kid. Making a deal with my parents would be like making a deal with the devil to me. Sister-in-law ended up having another tantrum after hearing that and threw a box down, then sat on the ground to have a pity party because she didn't want to go back to sharing a house with my parents. And she just sat looking angry and sad there until everyone else was finished. She didn't even want to get up when it was time to leave.
Oh my gosh. I do have to interrupt before we go to the next slide. Thank you very much to Rosa, who just sent me a PayPal. That's very sweet of you. I very much appreciate it. Love from Iceland. Thank you so much. All right. Are you good to do the next one, producer sister? Thank you for the support, guys. It's amazing.
They finally got everything out of the house and into the truck. So, before I left, I laid into my parents one last time about all the crap they put me through growing up. And with 4 cops being right there, they couldn't do much other than stand there and take it for once. I called them out on so many things that happened and even pointed out how they could just do something nice for me, like letting me stay over with my camper when I was homeless and trying to get back up on my feet. How they let Dan and sister-in-law ridicule me and call me a bum. Well, who's the bum now? They wanted to kick me out on my own house so Dan could stay in it free of charge. Yet, when I needed a place to go, they wanted to gouge me for more than I could afford just to park my camper when they knew I was out of a job. They were more extremely judgmental stares from the cops when I said all of that. So I put my parents on the spot one more time and asked them what I ever did other than being born to deserve being treated so badly. But when I finally have a bit of success in my life, they want to snatch it away from me for their favorite child, since they'd rather I give everything to Dan and have nothing for myself. I bought the house using the money that I earned. I owed them nothing, and I won't be asking anything from them ever again, because clearly I will never be anything more than a doormat or a cash cow in their eyes.
Yep. Do you want me to take it from here?
Sure.
I've got no answers from them. They just stood there looking like a fish out of water. So I continued ranting and asking them what in God's name made them think they were such good parents after all of that. My father was beet red, but more from embarrassment than anger this time. And my mother was crying that she was a horrible person. Can anybody else just imagine her just going of course I'm just a terrible mother. I'm just a horrible mother.
Yeah.
Like that type of
It's
thing.
just more guilt trip.
Like, if your kids are telling you they have an issue, listen. Don't just start invalidating them and making it into a pity party. They're telling you they have an issue probably because they want to try to resolve it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They want you to see how they're feeling and understand it. And especially if you're saying that, you're selfish, and then you turn it around and go, but that makes me feel bad.
It's not all about you.
Yeah, I don't have that one loaded, but seriously, oh, right. Because it's always about you, isn't it? I'm sorry. You don't get to take somebody else's house if you have
insufficient funds. You ain't got no
I'll let you read
money.
Benjamin's super chat.
Oh my gosh. Benjamin just said emotional damage. Yes, 100% emotional damage. Oh no, the chat stopped. It should come back. Sorry about that, guys. The chat should come back up shortly. But seriously though, emotional damage. Oh. I bluntly agreed that she is a horrible person. They all are. And I bet they'll all go to AG double hockey stick for it too. They were crappy people and they all knew it. But if I call them out on stuff in private instead of public, they get mad at me and still act like I'm in the wrong. They just kept up the denial for so long, it became part of who they are. My mother buried her face in my father's jacket to cry, and my father looked more defeated than I'd ever seen him. Dan and his family avoided me entirely as they finished putting everything back in the moving truck. I made sure nothing of mine was stolen. Not that I'd had much chance to get any furniture yet. I was lucky to even have a couch at that time. They all got back in their vehicles and sister-in-law just stood staring at me with malice until my brother finally got her to drive the minivan home. Oh gosh. As soon as they were all gone, I got back online and spilled the beans on what happened. My parents were too embarrassed to even try to defend their actions this time. And while the family was somewhat split before this incident, it was now a landslide in my favor. Nearly all of the family has sided with me after this incident, and those who haven't simply aren't siding with anybody. No matter how much my parents previously tried the "we did it for Dan" line, no one listened anymore. So the remaining familial support they had is now gone. Many in the family I expected wouldn't side with me did, and that includes former flying monkeys, so I guess they've had enough. Around that time, I offered to host the family at the next Christmas Eve in my new house. My parents were not invited. It's just oh. I wasn't blocked on my brother and sister's profiles, surprisingly, and I saw sister-in-law had her fourth baby in early November. They are still living with my parents, and I'm pretty sure they knew I was watching because sister-in-law kept making passive-aggressive posts every couple of weeks or so about not having enough space while living with my parents, probably to see if she could still guilt me. And I'm sure it's driving my mother and father up the wall because they aren't getting any peace and quiet in their old age with 3 rowdy, obnoxious kids and a mentally unstable sister-in-law, my golden child brother, and a newborn baby in the house all at once. Perhaps they could move into a camper in their own backyard and let Dan take over their house completely. They may get some peace then. Yeah, they could do that for Dan. Benjamin said, "Do I need my flipper for Jesus?" Maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah, exactly. Wendy just said, family is who you make it, not necessarily the one you're born into. This is why some people have chosen families.
Yep.
And this is the type of stuff, like, when I hear people go, oh, well, these kids are going no contact now. What's with that? I'm like, because stuff like this happens.
It's toxic.
The question should be, what could have happened that pushed the kid away that dramatically? And it's usually something insane like this.
Yep.
Just saying. Ugh. All right. Next update, guys. Next update. This continued. So I was trying to keep things to 2 posts, but I realized while I was compiling everything in part 2 that it was just too long. So I divided it into part 3. For those who commented en masse to get cameras, I will when I can afford it. I'm still in financial recovery from buying a house last year. As far as I know, good cameras need decent computers to record to, and I don't have anything more than a 3-year-old laptop that runs Windows 10. Yes, I am aware of doorbell cams, and that is the first kind I will get. For those who kept saying that I should have just gotten my brother and sister-in-law arrested, the only reason I didn't was because they are parents and their kids need them. And if Dan was arrested, he would likely lose his job. And without that, the family has no money. And sister-in-law has only a months-old baby right now. Neither of them need to end up in jail. But you don't need jail for revenge. Police can help, yes. But I got payback without filing a police report. Would I be this merciful again? More than likely not, and they know it. Yeah, carbonized, it's you. Hi, you're the problem, it's you. Exactly. Let me know, guys, how you guys are doing out there. You guys hearing this for the first time? Are we still doing all right? It's crazy. Thank you so much, Benjamin, for another super chat. My goodness, no reason why Britney Spears made the toxic song. It's because of Dan. I mean, he is pretty toxic.
A whole lot of them are.
Yeah. I decided to wait on making an account and posting until after the new year, just in case more stuff happened, and it did. As previous readers know, my sister-in-law was making passive-aggressive posts on social media that were obviously directed at me, especially after sister-in-law had her 4th baby in November. She was posting the same repetitive nonsense over and over again, and she just found semi-clever ways of rewording it. But she pretty much kept regurgitating that she was tired of living with my parents, that there isn't enough space, that she needs her own house, blah, 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 blah. I know I sound dismissive, but live through what I have with these people and you will be ready to sarcastically play tiny violins in front of them too. They're just that bad. I don't think anyone thinks that your reaction to this isn't merited.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people wouldn't have been as
calm.
Yeah. wouldn't have been as level-headed.
Yeah.
Quite bluntly. Benjamin, thank you for another super chat saying it's no wonder Britney Spears made Toxic to make fun of Dan. Yep. Toxic. Okay. We'll go here. Producer sister, would you mind reading this one?
Yep. And since I waited to January to make an account, more happened just like I thought. I stated before that I'd invited half the family for a Christmas Eve party at my house, and everyone I invited all came, even though it was a fairly long drive of around 3 to 4 hours for them. But they wanted to come and show me their support. I was praised by them a lot for how hard I'd worked to get the house on my own and that they were sorry for everything I'd went through. I was asked why I didn't just take my camper and drive the 3 hours back to them instead of living pretty much homeless for so long. And I had to sheepishly admit that I was very attached to living around here and I had my best employment opportunities in this area. My hometown doesn't have a lot of great job opportunities in my field, if any at all, and I wanted to make my own way as much as I could. As an answer they overall accepted. We moved on to having a rather nice party, the best I'd been in years. Some relatives even brought CDs of great Christmas albums. All I have to say, the one my uncle brought, sorry, of Ray Charles was my favorite. He sings Christmas songs like no one else I've heard. It was grand and happy time. I felt like for once I could just forget my past issues and enjoy the moment. But I wouldn't be writing this if it had stayed that way.
Oh no. Yeah,
Oh, no.
we're getting more drama now. Crystal R, thank you so much for being a member for 5 months. That is amazing. Thank you so much. Happy birthday, Kim, Team Taurus. Yep. And Benjamin said, I think Dan is getting in trouble with the IRS by now. I mean,
He has some
other trouble that comes
coming
his way. There's some of you guys that believe in karma. Here we go. Get ready.
It's coming. About 2 hours into the party, you know who showed up. My parents, brother, and sister-in-law popped in trying to look all smiles. They didn't even knock. Just walked right in my front door like they were meant to be there. I shut off the music and told them to leave immediately. They begged to stay and said they brought gifts. Yeah, because that makes it all better. One of my uncles stood up and yelled at them before I got another chance to speak. And he said they don't deserve to be in my home or my life after the crap they tried to pull months earlier. And he was backed up by several other relatives. Mind you, this guy is my mom's brother, and he used to love her to pieces until he found out about all the crap that went on between me and my parents. My grandparents, mother's parents, as old as they are, hurriedly got in between us and said to my parents that if they want to make amends with me, it's far too soon. And they've never been more disappointed in them than they were this past year. They'd hidden their favoritism for my brother from prying eyes for a long time, but no one was fooled anymore, and they needed to make a serious effort to try and actually treat me like a son if they ever wanted to be in my life again. Then they turned to Dan and my sister-in-law and said they've seen the repetitive nonsense sister-in-law keeps posting about. They're tired of it and just let it go already. My house will not become their new home.
Yes, 100%. I have to say, while you were reading Producer Sister, Nicole just gave the most beautiful comment I think I've ever read. Cry me a river, and I'll piss you a stream, and build you a bridge for you to get over it.
Very nice.
Yes. And also, for the record, Your Honor, we need frou-frou. Oh gosh, I hope OP gets a frou-frou.
Yep, that'd be beautiful.
Sister-in-law went back to her old standard of crying and had a pity party about how she should be the one living here and not me. And she plopped down in a chair to have a tantrum to say that it wasn't fair. I got this house to myself when I have no family of my own, and she has 4 kids that need more space, and she just wanted a better place to live and feel like a real mom. It was petty of me, but I loudly pointed out that she sucks as a mother because she lets my mother do most of the parenting while she sits on her butt all day drinking, playing on her phone, or going out and spending all of Dan's money. And she's the nerve to complain about it. I even joke that I'm surprised her baby doesn't get drunk from the breast milk since she drinks so much booze. And while I admit I went a bit far, and I got some stares. As I got some stares, and sister-in-law demanded to know if I was calling her a bad mom. I said the evidence speaks for itself, and if she wanted to be able to afford to move out of my parents' house someday, then she needed to put her college degree to some use and get a job and learn how to save money. My mother already does most of the child care for my brother's kids anyway, so she'd have plenty of time after her baby gets a little older. My brother's eldest, who was 7 years old, ran up to start kicking and screaming at me for yelling at his mom. And he kept at me about how his mom said that I was the bad guy who made her cry and didn't let them live here. Oh, guys, the violin. Silky, the violin emojis. Yes.
Beautiful.
Perfection. Perfection. And that's when my brother grabbed his son to pull him away. But all the other relatives jumped back in. And this sort of turned into a family intervention against my sister-in-law and brother. She was crying. Her new baby was crying. The kids were all crying. Even Dan was nearly in tears from the verbal lashing he was being aid with. He ended up just sitting sitting on the ottoman, and I keep
shoes by the front door.
And looking like a complete wreck. He couldn't look anyone in the eye and couldn't even say 2 words to me. Not with a whole house filled with angry people ready to judge him if he tried to let out his inner golden child again. If they weren't there to get in his way, I bet they would have ended up. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading. I bet this would have ended up a repeat of when he tried to order me around and try to take my house months earlier. By this point, he had been so thoroughly humiliated that his parents, and my parents' reputation in the family was completely destroyed because the masks were now off now. Okay. Producer sister, could you take up from here? Just give me a second.
Soon after, my parents, brother, and sister-in-law all left in defeat. The party resumed, and we avoided speaking of what had just happened for the rest of the evening. Since most of the adults had been drinking, everyone stayed the night in my house. I even let some of them sleep in the camper, so there'd be enough space. I admit, it also makes a good guest house. My relatives all wanted a tour of it earlier as well. They said they couldn't believe I'd been living in it for around 2 years. I got a lot of questions about it, like what summer and winter was like, and so on. I was up earlier than everyone else Christmas morning and had a fresh pot of coffee and some ibuprofen for those spiked eggnog hangovers a few of them had. I was complimented on being a way nicer host than my parents ever were, and we agreed to do this again next Christmas.
It's so nice.
Mm-hmm. After Christmas, sister-in-law did finally stop making posts that were obvious digs at me, and deleted all of the old ones as well. But shortly after the new year, she more recently made a new post complaining about how she tried to convince my parents to get a camper like I did, so it could be set up in the backyard so Dan and his family could use the whole house as their family home. Well, a taste of one's own medicine is never fun, because my parents turned down the idea vehemently, I hear. No one is going to push them out of their own home, let alone their master bedroom. The post was only up for a couple of days before sister-in-law removed it, and she has hardly posted anything since then. She loves to complain. Shocking. But if a tree falls and no one is around to hear it, can it still complain? Sister-in-law, I guess, has realized that there's no point in doing it when no one hears her anymore, and Dan can't afford to move his family out on his salary alone anytime soon. If they ended up expecting another child in the next few years, I wouldn't be surprised. Things mellowed down for me since then, and I've even invited friends over for a poker night. I suck at poker, but I can never remember a thing about it. But so what? We get to drink beer and eat junk food while being merry idiots. We all loaded up on Whoppers from Burger King and just had at it in the best way 4 grown men can, when they just want to have a good unadulterated time and get drunk. I think maybe around summer I'll look into possibly dating someone. I'm not exactly getting younger here. Fingers crossed that goes well. My camper just sits idle in my yard now, and I admit There were some days when I went out there just to spend time in it. Like I did live in it for 2 years. It's like my second home. And maybe one day I'll actually get to use it for camping like it was meant to be. I've never been camping. My parents considered it a waste of time, so it'd be a completely new experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
That pretty much marks the end of what happened. My parents, brother, and sister in law have all been staying very clear of me. In fact, they seem to have gone back to acting like I don't exist, like they did before I bought a house. Not like that bothers me at all. It's better that way. But they'll inevitably come back again in some way. I know they will. I just wonder what kind of stupid thing they'll do next. If anything notable like this ever happens again, I'll make another post if this account is still active.
The story's not over.
The story's not over.
More stuff happened. More stuff happened, everyone. How are we doing? How are the first timers doing? How are the second timers doing? Let me know, because this, oh gosh. I love Silky just said, is he any chance related to a certain British prince? I don't know. To me, it's just so insane that I'm glad his family backed him up. Like,
Yeah.
his extended family. I think that's probably, like, the best silver lining of this whole thing. I'm just double checking where we're at on, okay. Producer sister.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what slide we're on?
32.
32? Okay. All right. So, we've got more, guys. Are we ready?
Let's do it.
Arya, ribbit! Yes! And that's when things got weird. My parents and Dan were back sooner than I thought, and they wanted money this time. This will not surprise some people who commented on my previous post because my parents did some of the exact things they said they would, which was wanting either my money or my signature. I didn't expect the classic lines of narcissists saying that I owed them or give me some kind of socialist BS of sharing the wealth. But that was just my imagination running wild. The ensuing situation was somewhat similar to that, but much more tame, I guess you could say, and they seemed to know not to push me too far now, and were mostly aiming for pity. It began when my parents recently got in touch with me through social media and asked for a meeting in a public place of my choosing. It just screamed trap, but I wasn't afraid, in fact amused. They know that I'm not to be effed with anymore, so I could only wonder what they wanted this time. I picked a local restaurant that may have a name of an olive and a garden in it, and we met up there. Dan was with them, but he kept his mouth shut most of the time. We're going to the garlic bread, everyone.
Woohoo!
We're going to the garlic breadsticks. We had an awkward greetings, ordered some drinks, and then cut to the chase. My parents begged me to help Dan get his own apartment so he could finally move out. Apparently Dan's credit isn't so great. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be that his wife regularly spends him into a hole? Well, they asked that I either help by supplying some capital or by co-signing the apartment and helping to pay the rent for it. I said no to both. And that's when Dan spoke up in anger and yelled at me that I have so much and I don't have a family to support like he does. He needed my help, and I should be sparing the money for his family since I don't have one myself. I laughed and asked where they were when I needed their help. Oh, that's right. They were pointing and laughing at me for being homeless. Or should we go back further to my childhood? I'd love to delve into that with plenty of ears listening in around us. My mother grabbed my hand and begged me not to speak of any of it. My father and Dan both just looked away and said nothing. Pretty sure they wanted to say something like they used to at me, but they held their tongues. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I asked them if they thought I was rich or something, and their looks said it all. And when I told them that I didn't have that kind of money, they looked at me like a deer in headlights. I broke it down down about how much I'd managed to save for the down payment on my house, and the way that I had to live and work in order to save that much so fast, and then how I spent nearly all of it on the down payment of my house. I'm still in financial recovery. I did have monthly income to spare, yes, but most of it was going right into my savings. I asked Dan what his yearly salary was, and when he told me, I pointed out that it was actually a bit higher than mine. And then I loosely broke things down in rough math in front of my parents. on how about 70% of my income goes to my mortgage, then insurance, gasoline, internet, phone, food, and other bills. And then maybe there's 30% of that left at most I can put into savings. And I need that money saved to get back on my feet in time. And I have to make sure that I have savings to fall back on. My truck is from the 90s. If it were to break down, I'd need money to either fix it or replace it. And there's other things one would need a rainy day fund for, like home repairs, doctors, taxes, lawyers, and anything in general that you would need quick cash for when it's a sudden unexpected expense. So as you can see, I can't spare money for Dan. And I also refuse to co-sign for anything, as that would leave me on the hook for any bill Dan couldn't or wouldn't pay. And then I pointed out that that's likely why my parents didn't co-sign for Dan's apartment themselves long ago. And my mother just started crying again.
This woman needs to stop crying. It's not going to help.
Oh. I was pretty much one step ahead of them in all of this. I am not an ATM, and I am not a fool. And I stated right to their faces I expected my father to become angry with me like he always does. But this time, he just, well, didn't. I've known this man to explode on me for the slightest provocation of not enabling my brother all my life. But this time, he didn't do that. There wasn't even a sneer on his face. The only way I could describe the look he had was regret and defeat. Maybe regretting being a crappy parent. Or maybe regret because he can't bully me around anymore. Who knows? Either way, my parents couldn't really argue with me. And I wasn't about to give them any money. Dan just got up and said this was all a waste of time and that he was leaving. My mother started apologizing for him, but Dan wanted to leave. And then just to kill it with kindness, I offered to buy them a round of unlimited soup and salad while they were all there. I forgot he did that. It's funny. Okay. I guess they couldn't turn down free food, but since we hadn't ordered anything with drinks yet, and they stayed, I went out of my way to talk about anything other than money. Dan remained quiet and was either eating his food or looking at his phone, but my parents just awkwardly talked with me. They brought up that they've recently joined a local Christian church, and they had already been going the last 2 weeks. I said, good for them. And then, of course, they started trying to advertise that they'd like me to go too. I simply said, no thanks, and they were smart enough to not push further. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When I read this the first time, there was a part of me that just went, y'all need Jesus. So I'm glad that changed. Benjamin, thank you so much for the super sticker you just sent in of the shocked dude's face. Like, wow. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Ah, sorry, Mike. When the meal was finished, Dan left a 10 on the table for the tip and walked off without saying another word to me or anyone. My mother just excused his behavior.
Shocking.
And we all parted ways. And that was about it. Not nearly as much drama as I thought there would be, but this is still far better than how things used to be with my parents and my brother. As for sister-in-law, well, she's been regularly complaining online about my parents. She doesn't seem to like the fact that she's not the queen bee of their house, and I think her toxic is finally getting to them. Why else would they be so desperate and come crawling back to me? Sister-in-law actually wants my parents to move into a camper like I had to do in order to make space in the house, and she's being told no every time. She doesn't seem to have a following of Karen-minded people like her, though, because here and there I get messaged by someone I don't know, and they are intent on raging on me for not giving up the house to sister-in-law. I don't bother to argue with these people anymore. I just block and move on. Though there is one persistent troll who had my phone number, and they call from a different number every time. Yes, it seems to be the same person who called me to say that I need to make way for a real family man like Dan, but I couldn't care less. The calls, though, seem to have slowed down, if not maybe stopped, because I made it clear to the person that they were only amusing me by keeping this up for so long. The last time they called was around the beginning of the month, and it's been silent since then. I love Stephanie. How very Christian of them to demand stuff from them. Yeah. It's... Oh, I love Sarai. If I was their waiter, the kitchen would be full of gossip at that table. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
sure there was.
Alrighty. We have another update.
You're going to fast forward to October.
October.
So the last update was in February. Now we're in October.
Well, I figured I'd wait half a year or so after the original post to update everyone, but it ended up being longer than that. Yes, things did go bad again, but not really for me for the most part. I'm pretty much fine, if not almost unscathed since last Christmas. Apart from my time, my parents, Dan came to me for money, as my last post told, and a more recent confrontation between me and sister-in-law you will read about here. You guys ready? Are you ready? Because this sent me. I was done. I did get a few cameras for my house, including a Ring doorbell in front. I didn't tell my family about the cameras just in case, but thus far no one has attempted a break-in. I think the way I outed them all before scared them into leaving me alone, for the most part anyway. I've taken to renting out 2 of the rooms in my house, one to a close friend and the other to a friend of said close friend. Both have been fantastic tenants. They know how to keep quiet and leave me alone most of the time, and even have small refrigerators they keep in their rooms so we don't need to keep any of their drinks in the main fridge. The deal I gave them on rent was too good for them to pass up, and it increased my monthly income as well. Even after taxes, I'm still putting away some decent amounts in the bank since the rent money pays a good chunk of my monthly mortgage. Good for you, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Keep going. There we go. You're all probably wondering how my parents, brother, and sister-in-law took to me renting out these rooms to friends. Well, the answer is not well.
Shocking.
My father and Dan stayed out of it, but sister-in-law freaked out, which made my mother come crying to me about how I could have rented those rooms to Dion and his family instead. We had a bit of an argument in which I pointed out that for one thing, they effing broke into my house and tried to steal it. She wouldn't want to let someone who did that move in with her. Also, there wasn't enough room for me, Dan, and his entire family in my house. Not that I would ever share a roof with them anyway. It's a 3-bedroom and a manufactured home, no less. I have the master bedroom and its adjoining bathroom. That would have left only 2 small rooms for Dan, sister-in-law, and the 4 kids. Not to mention they would all be annoying AF to me all the time. Also, she knows very well I can't be around sister-in-law because she intentionally antagonizes me. So she knows and they all mocked me when I was homeless before. Besides, my current tenants are both single guys in their 30s that I get along with. My mother had some sobbing excuses for a while, but she finally let it go and admitted she was just desperate. Edit. Parents found out that I was renting rooms out because sister-in-law basically stalked me in some way. Then she told my parents, and then my parents contacted me. And then my mother came over to cry about it. Sarah B., I would have had to get a restraining order in place at this point. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wait.
Yep. This woman needs to stop crying.
Since then, my parents haven't bothered me once about the house, so things are good for me. My parents and Dan, not so much. Here we go. It turns out sister-in-law is a far worse person than even I thought. I already knew she was a gaslighting, self-victimizing drama queen, but she sank even lower because Dan's youngest child turned out not to be his. Yes, you all read that correctly. Sister-in-law had an affair, which in retrospect is not all that surprising, and something a few people here called months ago. And after being caught, sister-in-law was ousted from the family. Dan just recently finished with his divorce, which actually went in his favor since thankfully we live in an at-fault state. Dan also sued to get his name taken off the birth certificate of the youngest child and won.
Yes, Katie. And this is when things went weird.
Ribbit! I was screaming. Producer sister, do you want to pick up on this one?
Sure. Basically, after the incident where my parents tried to force me to hand over my house, things got pretty tumultuous over at their house. Sister-in-law blamed me.
Shock.
A lot. She was convinced somehow that I had tons of money, like I'd won the lottery or something, and I should share the wealth. Apparently, it was her idea that they come to my Christmas party because she hoped they could try and get on my good side. It was also her idea to make my parents and Dan try to get money from me for an apartment. So it really burst her bubble when Dan and my parents informed her of how my finances actually were. For the longest time, she had Dan and my parents fully engulfed in her toxic mindset and only fed their narcissism with her own. So her blaming me and So her blaming me made the rest of them blame me. That is until what happened in front of the police and they tried to steal my house. That's when the downfall for sister-in-law really started. My parents and Dan were apprehensive about coming to my Christmas party after the way I'd outed them. But sister-in-law convinced them to just throw together a few cheap gifts from what they could get at the last minute and just show up because he'd never throw us out once we were already there. Boy, was she wrong. She gambled on that plan and with with the complete blessing of everyone I'd invited threw her and the rest of them out. Her plan, she had no doubt thought was the most clever thing ever, backfired in her face spectacularly. I guess being chewed out by the family at my party not only wrecked my parents' reputation even more, it actually started a wake-up call for them to eventually not listen to sister-in-law anymore. And as I said in my last post, my parents decided on going back to church. Perhaps because last year I'd said they'd probably go to HE double hockey sticks for their actions. I can't say that's the real reason, but you got to admit, it would feel kind of satisfying if that was the case. Though my parents had to been to church in 2 decades before going back. Well, I don't think it's a bad idea that they're going to church. They need to understand that that doesn't just give them a do-over for all the crap they've done in the past. But I have a little faith that they're at least trying, because my parents came to my house without Dan to personally apologize to me after they'd seen the animated video of my first 3 posts.
Yeah, somebody took this whole Reddit story and made an animated video and put it on YouTube.
True story. That's right. They've known about this Reddit account for a long time now. They also know everything I'm saying. Yes, they're unhappy about it. But I feel everyone here deserves an update since it's anonymous.
100%. Benjamin, thank you so much for the super chat you just sent in saying can't read my poker face. I can keep going from here.
Okay.
That's okay. For my parents and Dan, though, watching an animated video of themselves and their own actions was a great way to make them see what kind of people they really are. And they came over to apologize to me later. I've never seen my father apologize like that to anyone, and the man isn't a good actor. So this felt genuine. They fully acknowledge what they did to me and how there's no excuse for any of it. They even described themselves as narcissists and admitted the truth that they had wronged me very badly. Can I just say, this is a unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they did that. But wow. Then they went on to blame sister-in-law for a lot of things. Yeah, they kind of threw her under the bus. Yeah. But it's not like she wasn't guilty of everything they said. My parents have been getting counseling for a while now, and they did offer group family counseling, but I declined as I'm not ready for that anytime soon. Dan himself didn't apologize to me for some time, but looked extremely remorseful when the past was brought up. I'm glad they're all getting therapy. It's needed.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Dan and sister-in-law's marriage absolutely fell apart. It wasn't a crumble, it was a cascade.
Woo-hoo.
Without me as the scapegoat black sheep / ATM that they couldn't mock or try to get money from anymore. And after the public humiliation on social media, my Reddit post, and the animated online video, sister-in-law finally let out enough of her toxic on Dan and my parents for them to realize that she's not the person they thought she was. Their denial had been strong, but sister-in-law's entitlement was stronger. I've had many thoughts of lightsabers clashing over this drama. Sister-in-law clad like a bimbo Sith with a lightsaber that looks like a giant lipstick or something like that. I imagine there's a wealth of puns and jokes to be had here, but I really didn't bother to think in much more detail about it. Duel of the Fates playing in the background. But as you can imagine, things only got worse for sister-in-law, and she kept looking for other ways to get what she wanted. She kept bringing up ads for used campers and RVs to try to get my parents to buy, I forgot about this, to buy one or live out of so she could have the main house. Oh my gosh. The audacity. She even tried to say that my parents should just buy an RV and have a life on the road like normal old people do. But that was stupid, even for sister-in-law. The opposite was suggested by my parents, that Dan and sister-in-law buy a camper themselves to live out of instead. Sister-in-law basically said she shouldn't have to do that since she's the mom.
So is Dan's mom.
Yeah, she's the grandma who owns the house.
Who was a mom first.
Yeah. And is actually raising her kids. So there's that's a thing. She pretty much lorded over the fact that she had total parental authority over everyone's heads because the kids in the house were all hers. And when sister-in-law didn't get her way, she actually took her baby and left the house to disappear for several days. They knew she was fine because her phone was still working, and she was responding to texts with short but passive-aggressive answers. And when she came back, she was only more embittered because nobody caved to her demands while she was away. Sister-in-law also refused to go to church, but Dan went with our parents and took their kids along as well. Safe except for the youngest, because sister-in-law refused to let him take the baby anywhere. Personally, I don't go to church. I believe in God and all that stuff, but I just don't like church. Besides, it never did me any good growing up. Another update. Part 2. Just so everyone understands, a lot of this information came from Dan and my parents, so I'm just telling you what I know. Thank you, Benjamin, for the super chat that just came in. My mother would tell me to get a job if I wanted extra money. I mean, I think a part of it is if the grandma is already raising the kids, essentially.
Yeah.
I understand her being off work right now because she has a newborn.
Yeah.
But, like, she could have had a job.
Yes.
And this probably wouldn't be so much of an issue. But she doesn't want to. It's her entitlement, bluntly. And that's what it sounds like to me, at least. Now, ish really hit the fan when Dan suddenly called out his wife as a cheater in March. This shocked us all because we thought he was a complete pushover to her, but no, he's not, at least not anymore. You all know how he treated me when I was on his bad side. Well, his wife wasn't spared that ire at all. He started putting pieces together about her deceit and finally pulling his head out of his butt, and secretly got a DNA test for all of his kids. 3 of the kids are his, but the youngest one, the baby, was not. For the record, Dan and I both have pretty dark straight hair that's almost black. Same with our parents. Sister-in-law's hair is straight and pretty dark too, but the baby's hair is lighter and a bit curly. And at first Dan thought it was just because of the baby's age. Sister-in-law kept playing it off and said that it would darken in time, but the baby's hair never got darker. And I guess that was Dan's biggest clue. He confronted his wife with the DNA results in front of our parents, and she broke down sobbing that it was a mistake. Is it Luz? Luz, thank you so much for the super chat there, the $9.99. Happy birthday, Kim. Happy to be a space angel. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate that, and I am glad you are a space angel as well. So appreciated. All right. So, it was a mistake. It was a mistake. Sister-in-law pulled out all the Darvo stops of denying, trickle-truthing, and gaslighting, but Dan had none of it, and actually had done more to find out about her affair than I ever would have thought. I knew he was smart. He just let himself be dumb. And he had detailed proof of her cheating with phone records, texts he got off the phone, bank records, and the DNA test. He even identified the man she's cheating with, who is likely the father since he has much lighter, colored, curly hair. The evidence against her was crystal clear, and Dan said that if she was so bad at hiding her affair, he didn't even have a hard time figuring out any of it once he started looking. My parents demanded that sister-in-law leave their house immediately, and that's when she went psycho on them all. First just in yelling, but then she quickly got physical. The police had to be called by my mother, and yes, sister-in-law was arrested. Yay! She scratched up Dan and my father quite a bit with her fake long nails, and even harmed her eldest kid in the crossfire by hitting him hard enough to have a black eye and a nosebleed when he tried to intervene, which is so freaking sad.
Yeah.
That, oh gosh, Dan was smart enough to have his phone recording nearby when he confronted her, so the police had all they needed to arrest her for her A. Sister-in-law's parents had to drive over to bail her out. Then they came back for the baby and sister-in-law's stuff and her car as well. A couple days after sister-in-law got bailed out, she showed up at my house because I was apparently next on her ish list. As soon as I opened the door, she went on a delusional rant where she called me out for posting on Reddit. Then I said I was the entitled bane of her existence. I'm not sure, but I think she may have been on something, because this felt extra crazy for her and her eyes didn't look right. She claimed mothers with young children are the most sacred thing in the world, and then went on yelling that giving up my house shouldn't have been too much to ask for, because supporting the family was the least I could have done, and if I had, then her family would still be together. When I tried to talk while she was spewing all of that out, she actually attempted to shove me and cover my mouth. She even had her hand poised like she was ready to scratch me. Well, that went as well as you can expect. I'm not exactly one to be threatened, and I told her I'd call the police if she didn't take her hands off me right at that moment. I also told her I got it on my doorbell camera, and she started panicking the moment she heard camera. Then I ended up verbally savaging her to the point she was backing off my porch. I told her that she had some gall to call me entitled when she's exactly that. She didn't work for anything she had anymore. She cheated on her husband, got pregnant from her affair partner, made my mother do most of the parenting for her children, spent Dan's money until they were in a financial hole, and then acted entitled to my home to the point of trying to steal it. I called her entitled times 1,000 and that she is a greedy bee who was blinded by narcissism. And then I told her to stop blaming me for her own actions and to never show up at my house again. Thank you, Benjamin, for the super sticker of the diamond. It's very kind of you. Thank you. Being told all that was pretty much all sister-in-law needed to hear before jumping back into her car and then peeled off and sped out. This was the final straw that broke the camel's back for me. Now that she was separated from Dan, I ended up finally going to the police and filing a report on her for harassment and the A she had done on me last year, and putting her hands on me on the front porch only added to it. The police have it all on record now. I gave copies of the video for Dan to Dan for his divorce lawyer, and yes, I did file for a restraining order against sister-in-law. It was easily granted because it was obvious the woman is unhinged. She's not made a social media post about me since that I could see, but that's just because she put her profile on private. I hope her blame ship against me has long since sailed. Either way, she's left me alone.
Hooray!
So yes, there was a restraining order, everyone. We did get there.
Yay!
We did get there.
This took a little longer.
Oh, gosh. Sister-in-law was still with her affair partner during the divorce. At the time, I had no real idea of the man he is, but any person who monkeys with someone else's spouse and even has a child with them really doesn't have a lot of morals to begin with. Once the divorce was underway, sister-in-law admitted that Dan just wasn't man enough for her anymore because he couldn't afford to give her the lifestyle she wanted. She actually believed herself to be on the level of a trophy wife and that she deserves to be with someone wealthy. Dan says he pulled a me and maniacally laughed at her. He said she was nowhere near hot enough to be a trophy wife, along with mentioning the other faults she had. Sister-in-law ended up humiliated by this and ran off like a child. Benjamin, I just saw the super chat you sent in. I hope everything's okay.
I think it's regarding the story because
Okay.
he called
Okay.
the cops.
I hope it's a joke. Yeah. Okay.
I hope.
Yeah. Due to having to live with her parents, sister-in-law was forced to work in the family business because Dan wasn't giving her access to his bank accounts anymore. She'd already maxed out all the credit cards he'd previously gave to her, and she griped about having to work for her parents despite having a college degree. But I think they were the only ones who would employ her since she's got a criminal record and a decade-long gap in her resume. I've heard from Dan that the parents were severely disappointed in her as well, but that was just a rumor. They could be just as bad as her for all I know. Either way, this ish show of a divorce really took off once it got going. Sister-in-law didn't walk away with much from it, especially because she had an affair. Physically hurt her father-in-law, husband, and eldest child, and it's an at-fault state, like I mentioned earlier. So she kissed any chance of getting her way goodbye, and I'll go into detail about it in the final post. Producer sister.
Yes.
Are we approaching the end?
We're getting there.
I think so. Do you want to do this one?
Sure. Okay, so Dan's lawyer pulled some strings to get the divorce started as fast as possible, but it cost him. I don't know the more specific details or how much it all cost. They never told me. Sister-in-law, on the other hand, was financially backed into a corner very badly. And you know what can happen when you corner an animal. She fought back. But the law was not on her side, nor was her dwindling finances. Sister-in-law's parents had to pay for a lawyer for her, and not a very good one either. Also, she actually brought her affair partner to the divorce court to testify on her behalf. The guy was a real piece of work. He had a bronze tongue and a charming smile he tried to use to his advantage. He claimed sister-in-law had been wronged by an incompetent husband, which is why she sought the arms of another man. He claimed he was ready to take responsibility for the child he had fathered with sister-in-law, but that sister-in-law would still be needing the alimony for helping support herself and care for said child. He remarked that because Dan at the time was still on the birth certificate, alimony should be one of his obligations. Dan said this guy used big words and a charming smile, but seemed an extra special kind of stupid. And coming from Dan, that's saying something. The judge was also not swayed in the slightest and told the bronze tongue lout that he was a hypocrite for saying he was ready to take responsibility for his own child while holding his hand out for money from the man whose marriage he'd helped ruin. That shut him up.
Good.
Good.
Ridiculous.
Dan was prepared to sue his wife's affair partner for alienation of affection too. However, that fell through. I guess it would have been on Dan to prove how much she loved him before the affair started. But after her mask came off and we saw the real her, we're not sure if she ever really loved him at all, or if she was just having a meal ticket. Someone here pointed out sister-in-law probably kept popping out kids to avoid getting a job, and you may have been right. Either way, sister-in-law dragged out the divorce, but Dan's lawyer and the judge kept that from happening much. I swear, Dan must have seriously lucked out because he got one of the meanest, most unsympathetic to cheaters judge in the state. And all the evidence we had on sister-in-law made it easy for her to keep her from playing the victim. So instead, she just let her real itch self out since there was no point in hiding it anymore. The court had all of the records provided by Dan and myself, police reports, photos, and recordings to prove she was an narcissist. There was a mountain against sister-in-law that she had no way to climb over or hike around. She tried standing against the mountain, but that was prime avalanche territory.
I just want to say thank you so much to Kyle. Said kid pickup. Happy birthday again and much love. Thank you so much, Kyle, for the 10 months that you have spent in this community. You are amazing. Thank you so much always for your love on this channel. It is felt, and we appreciate you. I can keep going from here.
Okay.
In the end of the divorce, sister-in-law struck a deal to end things quick. Dan takes 3/4 of the credit card debt, gets his name off of the affair baby's birth certificate, and sister-in-law walked away with only partial custody of her children. No alimony, but also without most of the credit card debt she racked up. Her being legally employed by her parents meant she had an income of her own to fall back on and start paying off her debts. She can see her other kids almost whenever she wants and can take them on weekends, but for whatever reason, she's made very few attempts to even see them. She took them out to eat fast food a few times, but she's never taken them home with her. The kids are back in school now, and that gives her even less opportunities to see them. You'd think her parents would want to see their grandchildren, but they haven't contacted Dan about it. They barely saw Dan's children before that too. Now they may not even bother to see them at all. Do they hate kids or something? Even Dan doesn't know, but he tells me that his in-laws were always indifferent to him. As for Dan, well, he really did love his wife a lot, so the betrayal of her cheating made him hit that bottle hard. Rewind back to the night of his confrontation with his wife. He came to me in a stupor with the whiskey bottle in hand, and his face all scratched up and covered in bandages. I wouldn't say he was drunk yet, but I freaked out seeing him look like that, and then berated him for driving under the influence. But that didn't really mean much to him compared to the betrayal of his cheating harlot and soon-to-be of an ex-wife. We spent hours hanging out in my camper, as to not to disturb my tenants. And while Dan was drinking whiskey straight from the bottle and crying that he's a fool, and how he regretted ever marrying her. Pretty much any time he mentions her now, he just refers to her as that bee. So I guess that's ex-sister-in-law's nickname now. Benjamin, thank you for the super chat of "We didn't start the fire." Ironically, this time together was the most bonding Dan and I had done in 15 years. While he didn't exactly apologize to me, he called himself a crappy human being with terrible taste in women, and then said at least I didn't make his mistakes. Sorry. Despite all he previously did to me, he's still my younger brother, and I couldn't risk him trying to drive home. So I told him to stay the night and managed to take his keys. Then I set up the bunk in my camper for him to use. I rented out the spare rooms after all. He was in no shape to drive home. If he had taken an Uber, he'd have to pay for it, and then he'd have to come back and get his car later. He was still a depressed, crying mess, and I didn't want our parents or kids to see him like that. Or his kids to see him like that. And frankly, I was worried he'd do something insanely stupid if I let him leave. I didn't want him to sleep in the house, so putting him in the camper was the best option. Just because that bee effed him over didn't mean I suddenly trusted him, so it was better for him to sleep it off in the camper. We both just spent time in the camper playing games and watching movies on my portable DVD player. Poker was no fun with just two people, and Old Maid was just boring. Thankfully, I had an Uno deck too, and an old school battleship game. He really liked those. It was enough to keep him distracted until he was finally willing to lay down after running out of whiskey. He threw up a lot in the bucket anyway. But he wasn't opposed to sleeping in my camper. In fact, he found the idea kind of cool. Dan had a lot of questions for me as to how I'd lived in the camper for as long as I did, and I answered them all, if not just to keep him busy. But I needed to go to bed since I had to be up early. So I left him with my portable DVD player and a couple of movies, and that way he could amuse himself alone for a while if he managed to stay awake. Before leaving for work in the morning, I popped in while Dan was passed out in the bunk, and I left a bottle of ibuprofen and an energy drink on the counter of the camper's kitchenette, along with his car keys and a letter explaining to leave through the backyard gate. He saw himself out without trouble at around 1:30 p.m.
Nice, responsible.
Yeah, and to be
Brother.
honest, like, that's far more than he deserved.
Yep.
Like, again, mad respect.
Mm-hmm.
Mad respect to this person. Also, thank you, Benjamin. You're sending in a lot of chat.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow.
but why can't you just grow vegetables and sell them? I mean, I guess you could.
Yeah.
I guess you could. About a month after ex-sister-in-law, aka that bee, was kicked out, Dan came to me asking to borrow my camper. I guess he found it more comfortable than I thought when he slept in it, and he fully admitted he didn't ask for it sooner out of pride. But with his soon-to-be ex-wife out of the house, he decided to give up his room for his eldest kid. He's got 2 girls and a boy, and with the boy being the eldest and now 8 years old, the kids were all forced to share a room until that point. They had just had the curtains up for the boy's half of the room, but the boy often slept on the couch to avoid his sisters. I know the poor kid was really desperate for his own room, so I guess Dan decided to finally make a better decision as a dad and came to see me in order to beg to borrow my camper so his son could have his room. If he could have afforded it, he'd have bought his own camper instead of relying on me, and even said as much. I hadn't even gotten the chance to use the camper for actual camping yet, but I caved and let him use it anyway since it was actually for a good cause, and he promised to buy it in his own time anyway. No, I didn't ask for rent money for the camper. Dan is in enough of a financial hole as it is right now. Ex-sister-in-law's divorce drained him, and I've learned that I can get far better results with family lately by not being spiteful. I loaded my camper up and put it down in my parents' backyard, and my father put up a 30-amp breaker so it would have enough power for Dan to run heat and AC when he needs it. I do miss the camper. After all that time living in it, it kind of felt like it was part of me, but the only reason I loaned it out was for the sake of Dan's kids. Pretty much the only reason I still do anything for my parents or Dan is for the sake of those kids, as I've bonded with them. And yes, I know I might not get the camper back for quite some time, and likely not in the condition I lent it out in. But I've warned Dan and my parents that they will be financially responsible for any damage they do to my camper, as well as its upkeep for as long as they have it. I also took many timestamp pictures and video of the camper inside and outside before lending it out, so I can prove its condition before it left. Dan even recorded a video with me agreeing to my terms, so that's as good as a contract. With the financial drain of the divorce, Dan's not going to be able to get a place of his own for a few years, I'll bet. Though he seems to have no complaints about living in the camper, at least. I don't know if he actually likes it, or if he's just putting up a front. But I can guess it reminds him of the backyard forts we had as kids. And that's how it felt with me sometimes. Either way, he's living in it now. I did get some major props from the extended family for letting them borrow it too. I am now referred to a lot by them as the good brother Dan doesn't deserve. Either way, I think getting rid of sister-in-law was a great first step in mending the family as a whole. And I still have little care for my brother and parents after the way they treated me all my life, but I'm not going to let Dan's kids suffer for it. Those kids have actually really warmed up to me. They are actually happy to see me when I come over or when they visit me. I even babysat a few times. Now that they don't have their toxic mother around, they've become much nicer kids, especially to me, and I'm actually getting to enjoy being an uncle now. Yeah, I love you guys are just saying like you're with it. I mean, the kids are innocent.
Yeah.
I agree, Wendy, right? Like I think you're 100% right.
Everything they did before was because they were influenced to do that by their parents. They're the victims in this just as much. They don't
Yeah.
know any different.
And I mean, literally, one of them was struck by their own mom.
Yeah.
Like
The
it's
eldest.
so sad. It's
Yeah.
so sad. My mother is still doing the bulk of the parenting for my nibblings, as she has been acting as nice as possible to stay on my good side. My father often looks very defeated in my presence, but otherwise he's been either stoically quiet or generally nice to me. But he won't talk to me much. Though that's leagues better than how he was before, at least. I'm not letting my guard down either way. My parents do seem more happy than that my ex-sister-in-law is gone, and they often say they don't know what they ever saw in her, my mother especially, because the two of them butted heads over who was mom in the house for a long time. Now for the last part. At the same time as the divorce, Dan sued to have his name removed from the birth certificate for the baby that wasn't his. That B didn't really want to change it because it meant no more child support from Dan if she did. However, there was a court-ordered paternity test for the man identified as the baby's father, and I was prepared to laugh in case it turned out he wasn't the father either, but he was. And Dan's lawyer had a long talk with ex-sister-in-law's lawyer. Ex-sister-in-law had no leg to stand on, and Dan was ready to go to bat to make her situation even worse. She didn't have the finances to fight him any longer and agreed to changing the birth certificate. The bronze-tongued lout who knocked her up did man up to take financial responsibility as a parent, but he ended up not staying with sister-in-law. He contacted Dan through his lawyer to tell him he'd broken up with that B and wouldn't bother him again. I checked the social media of the guy after Dan linked me to it, and he was upset that now he's financially responsible for a child he never planned to have, and that he's too young for this. Guys, from what Dan's lawyer was able to find out, this man is just over 40. He looks younger than he is, but in no means a young man. Shortly after that, he put his online profile to private. Ex-sister-in-law did the same with hers a long time prior, so I have no more information left to give. This may be the end. Ex-sister-in-law is out of our hair. My parents and my brother have finally made a real effort to be better people, and I'm surprisingly happy as an uncle. And my house is still my house. Now, there were 2 other small updates after this, but I've just summarized them because I know this has been really long. So ex-sister-in-law did see the Reddit posts, but she can't respond due to the restraining order. She did complain to Dan about it, but Dan doesn't care. Camper's parents, or OP's parents, are trying to treat him and his brother more equally. Dan let him know that his parents' counselor has been reaming them out for the way that they treated OP. Dan is also now living in the camper, so the kids have more room in the house. Ex-sister-in-law bullied Dan about this, and Dan pointed out to her that he was living out of the camper because he was putting his kids ahead of himself, so his son could have his own room, something his ex never did, despite being their mother, and Dan has no interest in her anymore. OP's last update disclosed that his truck had been egged on Halloween night, and as much as he can't confirm 100%, it does appear it may have been ex-sister-in-law. He filed a police report but doubts anything will come of it, but it's probably a good idea to continue documenting this stuff in case she escalates. And that is the Do It For Dan saga. How are we doing?
And I did check this morning. There has not been a further update since.
Yes. We don't have another update. But there we go.
We made it!
Yep. And Benjamin just said, yeah, it was for the story. Thank you for the chat. We're going to continue as we have to keep watching this.
Yeah.
And to find out if there is any more updates. I'm sure we will bring it to you guys. I think honestly it's going to be, if there is an update, we're going to be stop the presses and run. You know what I mean? Like we're not holding back. But yeah, this is why people say, F you, Dan. in Do It for Dan, because this was a ride, and I think we were all really, really shocked. Benjamin, thank you for another super chat. Forget sister-in-law, how about Godzilla-in-law? Yeah, she's pretty crazy. She was pretty crazy. I do want to say thank you guys so much for all the support you have sent in. Being here, my birthday, just being so kind and so nice. I so appreciate it. This has been really, really nice. And it's a lot, and I'm still very overwhelmed. So thank you guys so much. We are going to wind down because we've been going for almost 2.5 hours. And I also have, I don't think you guys can see, let me see if I can do it this way. Yeah. I don't know if you can see Lacey. She is so tired from the past week. It was actually really funny when we got home. Like she just wanted to sleep, and she did. And then the next morning, I got her up, and she did not want to get up. She just wanted to keep sleeping. I took her out to pee, and then she came back in the house, and she instantly just went and laid down on the kitchen floor, like passed out. She's just so tired. It's gonna take her a bit to, you know, catch up on all of her sleep. Katie Artist, thank you for the super chat. You didn't need to do that. Thank you. Saying, I'm sad we couldn't have Steph and Andy's first reactions. We understand. Happy birthday. You know what? That's life sometimes. Andy is preparing a lot of stuff right now. He's working super duper hard. And Steph has had quite the past few weeks. And she is recovering. So I totally get it. Let's see here. And DVD, thank you so much for gifting another 5 memberships. You guys are incredible. Absolutely incredible. Producer sister,
Yes.
dare I ask how many memberships? And by any chance, I know we've had a good amount of super chats come in as well as memberships. Do you have there the names of the people who have gifted memberships?
Memberships, yes. Super chats, no.
That's fine. Would you be able to read out the people who have given memberships, and then after you, I will do the super chats just as another thank you.
Okay. So we're at 116 new members. I don't necessarily have all of the long, like your full names written out. I just do a shorthand. But we have Aria, Kim, General Scott, Wayward, Carbonized, Shauna, Bonbon, Benjamin, Pearl Jan, Samantha, Katie, General Scott, Shauna, General Scott, Jackie, Shauna, and then Diva D.
Thank you guys so much. And for PayPal, I did want to say thank you again to General Scott. Thank you to Diva D. Thank you to Vicky. Thank you to Rosa as well. And then I'm just going to go over and take a look here quickly at the super chats. Thank you to Katie. Thank you to Tyrana. Thank you to Shauna. Thank you to Bonbon B. Thank you to For the Record, Your Honor. You guys didn't have to do that. Silky, thank you so much. Sarah B. General Scott again. Maria 24T. Benjamin. And Aria. And Carbonized Stardust. Whitnars. Rio Oh Baby. And I think Lulz. Thank you. And I think that is it. Thank you guys so much for all of the support. It is appreciated and very, very felt. Thank you guys so much. So we're gonna General Scott, thank you for gifting another membership. So we're Team Odd.
Yep.
And Jean Rick, thank you so much, Queen Space Angel, member for 15 months. Huge shout out, Kim. Happy birthday. Thank you so much to all of you. We're going to wind down. I need to rest my voice. Thank you guys so much for being here. As far as I know, streams are going to resume as normal next week, as no babies are being born.
Nope.
And I will see
No one else is pregnant.
Yeah, no one else is pregnant. So I will see you all very soon. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Miss Kiss, for the chat.
Miss Kiss, oh, thank you. Member for 4 months. Thank you so much. I so appreciate that. All right, I'm going to roll the outro. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Jean Rick, thank you for the super sticker. I'm rolling the outro. Thank you guys so much. Much love. Bye.